Cregan Stark, known as the Wolf of the North, Lord of Winterfell and the head of House Stark, will appear with the 2,000 greybeards he promised to Jacaerys. In the book, Cregan Stark does not appear until the very end of the war when he marches with the Second Stark army, but on the show he's either replacing Roderick Dustin, who in the book is the leader of the Winter Wolves, or he's marching together with him. In any case, Cregan Stark is the leader of the first Stark army, the Winter Wolves, on the show, and Cregan will be more involved during the war than he is in the book. The leak says that Cregan is arriving with the Stark army at the Twins. They are there at the House Frey seat to cross from the north into the south. Earlier in Season 2, Jacaerys visited House Frey and his wife Serena when they treated him at the Twins. Jacaerys negotiated with the Freys to swear allegiance to Rhaenyra in exchange for the promise of being granted Harrenhal after the war, and to allow Cregan and the Stark soldiers free passage. While there are other ways to cross the rivers of the Trident, the Twins is the quickest and safest way to get from north to south with an army. The Trident is a collection of rivers that runs through Westeros, effectively cutting off the north from the Crownlands. The Twins, sometimes known as the Crossing, is a castle, a bridge and the seat of House Frey. It consists of two near-identical towers and a fortified bridge over the Green Fork of the Trident. The Twins represents the only crossing point over the Green Fork for hundreds of miles in either direction. It's a major barrier to anyone traveling from the north to the Riverlands. It lies directly on the main route from Winterfell to Riverrun. Moving from one castle to the other while avoiding the Twins requires a lengthy detour hundreds of miles to the south, or traveling through the dangerous terrain of the bogs and swamps of the Neck of the North. Jacaerys' plan works, and the Freys hold true to their word and allow Cregan and the Stark army to cross south. This actually paves the way for Cregan's story in House of the Dragon. First will come Stark's battles with the Lannisters and the Hightowers, as well as Cregan facing Cole and the death of Criston Cole, and later Cregan will become Hand of the King and rule King's Landing. Cregan will rule King's Landing for 6 days during the time known as the Hour of the Wolf. Cregan Stark is marching south. Cregan is honoring a promise he made to Jacaerys in the Season 2 premiere when Jace visited him at Winterfell, and the two traveled to the Wall. Cregan promised to gather an army of 2,000 experienced greybeards, and here they are now in the next episode traveling south to fight and die for the Dragon Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen. Cregan is a stern and formidable lord, and like many other Starks, Cregan is a good friend to the Night's Watch. Prince Aemon Targaryen the Dragonite, one of the most legendary knights to ever live in Westeros, later claimed he never faced a finer swordsman than Lord Cregan. In the book, Lord Cregan and Prince Jacaerys reached an agreement known as Pact of Ice and Fire, which stated that the future firstborn daughter of Jacaerys would one day marry Cregan's son Rickon. Cregan Stark is marching with the first host of Northmen, and Cregan will help Rhaenyra achieve great victories against Lannisters and Hightowers in the Riverlands. With 2,000 grizzled greybeards who wear old mail and ragged skins, riding shaggy northern horses and wielding axes, moles, spiked maces, and ancient iron swords, Cregan arrives at the Twins where they meet the Freys. In the book, during this meeting, the Winter Wolves leader gives a chilling line to the Freys stating we have come to die for the Dragon Queen, which on the show could be delivered by Cregan Stark. Cregan will then march with House Frey and Red Rob rivers to the God's Eye, where they join with other rivermen to oppose a host of the Lannisters and the Westermen. The Winter Wolves will beg for the honor of leading the attack in the ensuing battle by the lakeshore, charging 5 times at the Lannister spearmen. 2/3 of the Northmen will be killed or wounded in the fighting, which is a decisive victory for the Blacks. The battle by the lakeshore, called the Fishfeed by its participants, is the bloodiest land battle of the entire war. When the Lannisters and the Westermen reach the western shore of the God's Eye, they discover that they are opposed by Cregan Stark with 2,000 Winter Wolves, all of them mounted, Lord House Frey with 200 knights and 600 infantrymen, and Rob Rivers with 300 archers from Raventree Hall. The Lannisters take up a defensive position with their back to the lakeshore, sending ravens to nearby Harrenhal to seek assistance from Prince Aemon Targaryen, who will take Harrenhal in Season 2 finale when Daemon goes away from it and when he and Rhaenyra take King's Landing. Cregan and others decide to attack the Lannisters before their letters could reach Aemon and Vhagar. Cregan and the Winter Wolves will lead the attack, their cavalry charging the Lannister spearmen but suffering heavy losses. Attacked by the Blacks from 3 sides, the Lannister soldiers are gradually forced back into the God's Eye Lake, and the battle is ultimately the bloodiest land battle of the entire war. The Lannisters' main army will be totally destroyed in the battle, with few forces left to defend their home territory. Dalton Greyjoy will opportunistically ally with Rhaenyra so the Ironborn could plunder the coasts of the Westerlands, sacking Lannisport but failing to take Casterly Rock itself. In response to the Green's crushing defeat, Prince Aemon and Sir Criston Cole abandoned Harrenhal. Aemond flies Vhagar and burns everything through the Riverlands while Criston marches south with Lord Hightower. Rivermen avoid facing Criston's host directly, but wear him down with ambushes and scorched earth tactics, which includes arranging the bodies of fallen soldiers from the Fishfeed in gruesome displays to frighten Criston's host, causing many to desert. Cregan Stark with the Rivermen and a few surviving Winter Wolves will eventually corner Criston's depleted army in the Butcher's Ball, in which Criston Cole himself is killed. Criston will offer to surrender, but will be refused by Cregan. Criston will then offer to fight Cregan and the two other commanders all by himself, but they refuse Criston from having songs written about how bravely he died. So Criston is instead struck down by arrows fired by Red Rob Rivers and two of his longbowmen. When Criston dies, Cregan will sound the charge of the Black's vanguard, which consists of his Winter Wolves and the River Knights. The Greens quickly collapse, screaming northern war cries. The surviving Winter Wolves ride from a postern gate in the First Battle of Tumbleton. Although outnumbered 10-1, Cregan will lead the Northmen to strike at Ormund Hightower, Lord of the Hightower. In the book, Winter Wolves leader Roddy the Ruin manages to slay Ormund and his cousin Sir Brynden Hightower, so on the show that's what Cregan might do. The Blacks at Tumbleton are then however betrayed by Rhaenyra's two new dragon riders Hugh Hammer and Ulf White, and the last of the Winter Wolves fall in the battle. At this point, Prince Jacaerys will be killed in the Battle of the Gullet and Queen Rhaenyra will escape King's Landing after first taking it in the Season 2 finale, but then towards the end of the series having to leave after the storming of the Dragon Pit. While Rhaenyra is sheltering at Duskendale, Cregan will send word from Winterfell that he would gather for her a new Stark army of 10,000 Northmen. Rhaenyra will be slain when she returns to Dragonstone, however, so Cregan's new army marches south in support of her son with Daemon, Prince Aegon the Younger. Although King Aegon II will return to King's Landing to rule, Lord Stark will honor his word to the Blacks and march south with the second northern host. While the Northmen are on the march, the Rivermen defeat Boros Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End, in the Battle of the King's Road, and Aegon II is soon poisoned in the capital. Although their allies, the Northmen outnumbered the Rivermen when they reach King's Landing, and the lads are intimidated by the formidable Cregan, so the Starks take the rule. Lord Stark will intend to continue the war by marching on Storm's End, Old Town and Casterly Rock, powerful seats of the Greens. Cregan will also have many members of court imprisoned for the assassination of King Aegon, although he was Aegon's enemy because Lord Stark doesn't like a king being killed by poison instead of in battle. Cregan will hold court in the Red Keep for 6 days, a time known as the Hour of the Wolf. The remaining Green Lords send word for peace and to stop the war. Lord Stark agrees to not march on the castles of the Greens, but insists that the assassins of Aegon need to be punished. Lord Stark was named Hand of the King by Aegon the Younger. Ruling from the foot of the Iron Throne, Cregan will allow Septon Eustace to be released but condemns Grand Maester Orwyle and a member of the Kingsguard. 22 lesser individuals are also marked for death by Cregan. Lord Stark condemns the soldiers from House Strong who had freed Lady Baela Targaryen from imprisonment, but he agrees to spare them when Baela takes out a sword in their defense. Cregan also condemns Corlys Velaryon, who admits he acted for the good of the Seven Kingdoms and acted against King Aegon, and Larry Strong, Lord of Harrenhal, who refuses to offer a defense, stating when was a wolf ever moved by words. Baela and her sister Rhaena convince Prince Aegon to spare Corlys, however, which Cregan eventually agrees with after Alicent Blackwood persuades him. Cregan will personally behead the condemned ones with ice, the ancestral Valyrian steel greatsword of House Stark. When Lord Stark allows Sir Perkin the Flea to join the Night's Watch, however, most of the other condemned have their lives spared by asking to take the Black as well. Giles and Larys are the only two to be executed by Cregan, who resigns as Hand the following day. Within a fortnight of Aegon the Younger's coronation as King Aegon III Targaryen, Cregan begins his journey back to the north, having declined an offer to serve in the regency of Aegon III. Cregan has a long life, which earns him the nickname of the Old Man in the North. During that time, Cregan once fights Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight, the most legendary Targaryen swordsman and one of the best knights to ever live, who praises Lord Stark's skill by stating he never faced a finer swordsman. Cregan is entombed in the crypt of Winterfell. In the main A Song of Ice and Fire novels, when Bran is passing through the crypts of Winterfell, he remarks on the tombs of several previous Stark lords as they go, and notes that Cregan Stark was one of the finest swordsmen of his generation. There you have it, guys, and we'll see Cregan Stark with his Stark army, the Winter Wolves, arrive at the Twins, the seat of House Frey, where they're given passage into the south. Then in Season 3 we'll witness great battles between Cregan and the Lannisters, Starks and Hightowers, and ultimately Cregan's forces will put an end to Criston Cole. In Season 4, Cregan Stark will take King's Landing and rule it for a while. Let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comment section down below. For free, you can now listen to the entire audiobook Fire and Blood, on which House of the Dragon is based and which covers the entire Targaryen history, including current and future events of House of the Dragon, for free with a notable trial using our link in the description. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next one.